Hey guys, YouTuber 100 here. Alright, now here I am with another Rocky movie review. And now here I am with a review for Rocky 4. So, yeah, this is actually my favorite Rocky movie. I mean, I have always enjoyed this one the most. I mean, I just really have liked this movie the most out of all the films. I mean, yeah, as a kid, this was the Rocky movie that I definitely did watch the most by far. I mean, yeah, whenever I would watch the Rocky movies, this is the one that I watch 90% of the time from growing up. Yeah, I mean, I just really did enjoy this movie a lot growing up, and I still really do enjoy it today. I mean, yeah, yeah, this is just has always been my favorite Rocky movie. And yeah, this is the Rocky movie that a Creed 2 story will actually have a continuity with because, yeah, of course, in Creed 2, Drago is back, and yeah, Drago's son will be Adonis's rival in that movie. So, yeah, Creed 2 story will actually have continuity with this movie. So, yeah, and yeah, this is definitely a pretty good movie overall. I mean, yeah, this movie just really does have a lot of good things about it, and I just really do just so many of the elements that this movie does have. So yeah, I really do think that this movie really is a pretty good movie overall, and I really do think it is probably one of the better Rocky movies. I think. I mean, yeah, not as good as the first movie or three, but yeah, I definitely would say that I did who think that this is a better Rocky movie than two. So yeah, I really do think that overall, in the series, this is probably one of the better ones. So yeah, I really do have a lot of enjoyment out of this movie. Though the ending of this film, that is one of the flaws that this movie does have. Because yeah, I remember a Spinnernet reviewed this movie back in 2012, and he talked about how the ending of this film really just was pretty forced, and it just really just is not believable at all. Because yeah, I mean, you have what happens at the end of the movie with like where Rocky's determination in the fight with Drago starts to win over the Russian crowd, and the Russian crowd actually does start cheering Rocky in the film, and yeah, that just really does not make a lot of sense because yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, it is one thing for the Russian crowd to actually admire Rocky's determination in the fight, but you mean to say that they would actually start cheering Rocky over their own guy in the fight when by that point Drago had already won most of the fight? So yeah, that just really didn't make a lot of sense with just the crowd to just start to cheer Rocky when Drago had already won most of the fights. So yeah, that is one of the downsides this movie has, just because of how forced that ending was, and it really just does not make a lot of sense. But yeah, the rest of the film overall, I do think it is a really good movie. I mean, of course, one of the things that this movie is most well known for is the death of Apollo Creed. And yeah, so yeah, this is the second Rocky film in a row where one of the main characters dies. Yeah, and Rocky 3 was Mickey who died, and in this film it's Apollo who dies. So yeah, yeah, and of course, also in this film just has so many really really good songs in this film. Of course, there's "Eye of the Tiger," which starts the movie off at the beginning of the film, and there's also "No Easy Way Out." There's "Burning Heart." There's "Hearts on Fire." There's the war theme. So yeah, you might remember back when I made the countdown in 2012 of the top 10 best Rocky songs. I did have quite a few songs from this film in that list, and yeah, this the songs and the music in this film are just really, really, really good. And yeah, including that music during the training montage with Rocky and Drago in the movie. Just yeah, that's just a really great track as well. So yeah, the music in this film is really good. And yeah, this Rocky film, it does have the best soundtrack of all the Rocky films. And this is the Rocky film that actually did make the most money. Yeah, this just really was the has made the most movies of I mean, the most money out of all the Rocky movies of all ever. So yeah, this film definitely was a huge box office success, and so yeah, the yeah, this film, it really wasn't. Yeah, I'm sorry. Now this film, it didn't really do as well as the other three movies. You, I don't know if you saw video that I made where I like was counting down like the top 10 movies that the audiences like but critics don't, and yeah, I did like have this film as number one on the list. Yeah, just yeah, the critical reaction for this film, it really wasn't. It overall really critics overall they weren't like too hot this film. This film only has like a 38% on Rotten Tomatoes, but the audience score is 79%. So yeah, this film didn't really quite do that well with critics. Like, but yeah, I really don't see why. I mean, I guess I could kind of see like why critics would feel that way. Probably because of the forced ending and stuff, and just how it really didn't make sense. And yeah, that's probably the biggest drawback that this film has. But I mean, yeah, like the film overall, it is definitely like a really really good film. So yeah, yeah. So yeah, I would give this film probably 3.5 stars out of 4. I mean, yeah, it really is. I really do like the film, and like I said, it is my favorite Rocky movie ever. So yeah, I really do think very fond of this film. Yeah, you still do have like overall still like the main cast members all returning. There's still Sylvester Stallone, Talia Shire, Burt Young, and Carl Weathers as Apollo Creed. Though yeah, he's only in a partial part of this film since he gets killed in the movie. Yeah, and you also do have a Tony Burton back in the film as Duke, and in this film, he definitely does have like a lot bigger of a role than the previous three films. Yeah, in this film, like after the death of Apollo, Duke becomes Rocky's trainer. So yeah, he does get like a lot more time in the film. And yeah, in this film, you also do, of course, like have Dolph Lundgren as Drago, uh, Bridget Nielsen as his wife, and Michael Pataki as his manager. So yeah, now so a few new faces in this film. And so yeah, you also do have a Rocky son in the movie, you too. Yeah, he's like probably like around the age of 8 or 9 in this film. So yeah, and he does get like more screen time in this film than he did in Rocky 3. So yeah, he does like become like a bigger character in this film. And of course, like in Rocky 5, he's an even bigger character. He's actually one of the main characters in the film, and not like a supporting character like he is in 3 and 4. So a pretty good cast for the film. All right, so yeah, I think I've like rambled on enough about the film for a few minutes. So yeah, let me just like start talking about the film. All right. So the movie opens up with the Eye of the Tiger playing, and yeah, you do have like the two boxing gloves, with one with the American flag and one with the Soviet flag, and then they clash with each other. And then yeah, we then like see the flashback of like Rocky's fight with Clubber Lang at the end of Rocky 3, and Rocky defeating Clubber Lang. And as the opening credits roll, like we it showed like the scene at the end of Rocky 3 where just Rocky and Apollo like had their private rematch in Mickey's gym. And yeah, well, I should have probably said like once again, this film is under the direction of Sylvester Stallone as well as the writing. Yeah, yeah. And then yeah, but then eventually like it cuts to like sometime later. I don't know if it's like immediately after the fight with Apollo or whatever, but yeah, they're like celebrating a Polly's birthday, and Polly's birthday present is like a robot that they Rocky and Adrian bought for Polly stuff, and yeah, it had like a robotic voice at first, but then later on Polly would like give it a female voice. So yeah, that's funny. Yeah, and then yeah, it also like showed that Rocky and Adrian were celebrating their 9-year anniversary together. So yeah, I would guess that that would probably mean that their son probably is around like 9 years old, since he was born like shortly after their marriage. Like, so yeah, he is probably like 9 years old in the film. Yeah. And then eventually, Ivan Drago arrives from the Soviet Union along with his wife and manager. And when they uh, arrived in the U.S., then like they were like being interviewed why they're there and everything, and then they had just said they were like Soviet Union was now entering professional boxing, and Drago was the amateur champion in boxing, and then yeah, they were like challenging a Rocky Balboa to an exhibition fight, but yeah, Apollo like was watching the challenge interview, and then and that's when like Apollo was like thought about going back into fighting, but yeah, and then also showed how there was like a demonstration to display like Ivan Drago's punching power, and like the press was or the interviewers were like talking about how there's rumor that there's a distribution of steroids in the Soviet Union, and they were like questioning if Drago had actually taken part in it. But Drago's wife was like saying that he was clean of steroids, but like eventually in the film, like it would like reveal that Drago was actually being injected with steroids. So yeah, and then yeah, Drago's manager was then just saying that with a normal heavyweight, the average is 750 pounds per square inch in their punching power. And then in Drago's punching power, the measurement was 1,850 pounds. So yeah, Drago had like a way more than double the amount of the average. And so yeah, but yeah, wasn't it kind of obvious that Drago was being injected with steroids? I mean, even before it was actually revealed, like I mean, didn't it make it pretty obvious? Because I mean, who has that big of punching power who's like clean of steroids? So yeah, I think it was like kind of obvious that Drago was like taking part in the steroid distribution. But anyway, yeah. And then eventually, like Apollo then was talking to Rocky about fighting with Drago, and then like Adrian was like having some concerns with it because since Apollo had been retired for like 5 years, she just feels that he shouldn't be doing this anymore since he's like getting a lot older now. And yeah, Spitter had talked about in his review for this film how he just like felt that Apollo really just like couldn't let go of his boxing career, like since just it was what he was all about and he loved boxing, he just really couldn't let that go. Oh, and he didn't want his fame to pass, so yeah, he just like felt like wanted to get back in the ring to continue with his career. And yeah, and even like later on, Rocky was talking to Apollo how they're getting older now and they really can't do what they used to in the ring. But yeah, Drago was still, I mean, not Drago, Apollo was still like really determined and for this fight. And then yeah, he was just like pretty much giving Rocky the same sort of lecture that Rocky was giving Mickey in the previous film about his fight with Clubber Lang. And so then, yeah, Apollo was just like asking Rocky to be by his side for one more fight, and yeah, Rocky agreed to it. Yeah, and then like it showed like there was the press conference for the Apollo and Drago fight, and yeah, and, Apollo was just like doing a lot of showboating and stuff, pretty much just like just running his mouth on a Drago and everything, just like making everything into a joke. But then, like a Drago's wife and a manager was just really taking the it seriously, and they were just saying how it would be a really proud win for Drago against Apollo, and then of course like Apollo couldn't take any of that, so he was just like trying to pretty much say he was better. And then at one point, then Drago's manager then just said how Drago really shouldn't fight Apollo because Apollo's a has been. And then yeah, that then just turned into just a really like hostilities broke out between both parties and stuff. But then yeah, then we get to the fight night, like, which took place at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, and then yeah, in the back in the locker room, like Rocky was talking to Apollo how this is just an exhibition and it's not really real big fight, but Apollo was just saying how it is big because he just said to Rocky, "It's us versus them," and Rocky may not understand that now, but after the fight he will. And then yeah, then showed him like the Draco standing in the ring, and then Apollo like had just a real spectacular entrance with James Brown singing "Living in America," and then, yeah, you had like a Apollo like wearing his red American flag trunks and even like dressed as Uncle Sam again, like in the first movie, and just like dancing around as James Brown was performing. Sorry. And yeah, you had Adrian and Apollo's wife like watching in the front row, as well as Drago's wife and manager. Yeah, and then yeah, you had a Rocky, Duke, and Paulie as Apollo's training team. Stuff, yeah. And during the introductions, like it just like Apollo just had so many nicknames. There's like Dancing Destroyer, King of Sting, Count of Monte Cristo, Master of Disaster. Yeah, a bunch of nicknames. Yeah, and of course, like the crowd was like totally for Apollo and booing Drago. And yeah, and as Apollo and Drago were touching gloves, Drago just said to Apollo, "You will lose." Yeah, and yeah, that's another thing that this movie had. It just had like a lot of memorable quotes in this, like the "whatever he hits, he destroys," and "you will lose," and yeah, just a bunch of other quotes which I will mention when I get to them in this movie. Yeah, and then once the fight started, like Apollo was just like dancing around the ring, and yeah, he was just like hitting Drago with some jabs, but then eventually Drago then started to punish Apollo, and yeah, Drago just like beat the living hell out of Apollo in the first round. Now he was just like throwing some heavy punches, and it caused Apollo to bleed. And then at one point, as Apollo was like trying to cinch up Drago, so Drago threw Apollo just like right across the ring into another corner. And yeah, and even after the bell rang, Drago was still continuing to beat up Apollo, and then yeah, Rocky and Duke like had to break it up, and yeah, Duke was then just yelling to Drago's trainers, "What are you guys doing? This is supposed to be an exhibition." And yeah, and Rocky was just like trying to tell Apollo that he had to stop the fight since Drago was killing him. But yeah, well, of course, like because of Apollo's ego, he just like told Rocky not to stop the fight and just promised him he wouldn't no matter what. And it even showed, or like Apollo looked to his wife at one point, and it showed how she was getting teary eyed seeing Apollo take that kind of punishment. And then the second round it continued, with Draco just punishing Apollo, and then and yeah, Apollo's wife then just yelled, "Stop the fight!" And as the referee was like trying to like break make it up between Drago and Apollo, Drago just like shoved the referee across the ring, and Duke then was just yelling at Rocky to throw in the towel. And as Rocky was like motioning to throw in the towel, Apollo still like just yelled no to Rocky. And then finally, Drago then just gave a huge punch to Apollo, killing him. And then yeah, Apollo then just fell to the ground dead. And yeah, we don't. It's never like actually revealed if like Drago killing Apollo was actually his intent. Because I mean, was he actually mean to do that? Because I mean, how often does somebody even get killed in a boxing match? I mean, of course, like with Drago's huge punching powers and stuff. But I mean, still, like like how often has someone really been killed in a boxing match? So yeah, and yeah, then just Rocky and Duke were then just like holding on to Apollo, and yeah, and then Drago was just like giving his victory speech and just that how he could not be defeated. He did, and just said if he dies, he dies, and then yeah, then just showed them Rocky just staring down Drago. And then yeah, then we'll, like cut to Apollo's funeral where Rocky actually put the heavyweight championship belt on Apollo's casket, and then and yeah, we then like had all the headlines with now like Rocky like challenging Drago to avenge Apollo's death, but it showed that the boxing commission was not sanctioning the fight and stuff. And then, like during the press conference for the Rocky Drago fight, Rocky like was just saying how the fight really was not going to be about money, and the fight would take place on Christmas Day in Russia. And it and yeah, they explained how they decided for the fight to be in Russia due to the Drago was like receiving some threats of violence in the U.S., and so they just wanted to fight in the Soviet Union to for Drago's protection. And then yeah, Drago's a manager and wife were then just like really taking a bunch of shots at the U.S. Just saying, just like talking about how the U.S. just like this talks how they're like better than everyone and stuff, and then yeah, they were just like calling the American government antagonistic and violent, and then Paulie just came out at one point and said they don't keep people behind a wall, and yeah, then like during the press conference, also Drago's manager was like insulting Rocky a couple of times, but Rocky wasn't responding to it. Like he was like pretty calm compared to how Apollo was in the press conference. Yeah, yeah, and then and later on, as Adrian came home, like members of the press were like talking to her about it. But yeah, Adrian, of course, had no idea what was going on. And then later that night, like as she then was like questioning Rocky's decision to really have this fight with Drago in Russia, and she just couldn't understand why he was doing it. And and yeah, and she just like was telling Rocky that even if he does win, it's not going to change the fact that Apollo is dead. And then eventually she just then yelled, "You can't win!" to Rocky. Yeah, and then yeah, Rocky then like went out for a drive, and the No Easy Way Out song was playing during that, and yeah, then it just like showed like a whole montage of Rocky just thinking over his life, like the memories with Apollo, how like when Apollo was training him. Yeah, I just had like total flashbacks of like all like almost from the all the films up to this point. Yeah, like had like when Apollo was when Apollo was killed, and also like the fights that Rocky's fights with Apollo, and just a whole bunch of stuff like Rocky like thought over when he won the title, like his when he fell in love with Adrian and their marriage, when Mickey died, when their son was born. Yeah, I just had like a whole bunch of clips from all four movies. It like had the clip where Rocky threw his helmet at his statue in the third film and stuff, and like there was like one point where like it showed like one point where Rocky like fell down to the ground, as well as like when Apollo fell to the ground when Drago killed him. So yeah, just like a bunch of like clips of all four movies. And that's why Rocky was getting ready to leave for Russia. He was then like had a small talk with his son about how with each fight there's a side to him that is scared to fight because of how bad he's getting beat up, but there's also a side to him that's ready to fight for anything, and just he then just told his son that he always does love him. Yeah, and then yeah, of course, like Adrian just like didn't go with Rocky to Russia at first because yeah, of course, because like she just couldn't understand the decision, and like kind of similar to like how she really he did not really like agree with his decision for the rematch with Apollo in the second film. But yeah, then yeah, Rocky, Paulie, and Duke then and left for Russia, and the Burning Heart song was playing when they landed in Russia, and yeah, they were then just and their place to stay was like a log cabin, and they also like ended up like being accompanied by a couple of chaperones that would like just go anywhere where Rocky went. Yep, yep. And Duke later on was then just telling Rocky that he that well he was just like opening up to Rocky. He was just like saying like how he actually did raise Apollo, and yeah, when Apollo died, a part of him died, and yeah, he just told Rocky that he would be by his side to fight Drago, and just he does like have faith in Rocky to prevail. Yeah, and then yeah, had like the training montage with Rocky and Drago both training, and that music during the training was just so freaking great. And yeah, it just showed how they were both training in a different styles. How Drago was like training with like some high tech equipment, and it showed how Rocky was kind of like training really old school with like uh lifting heavy logs and like chopping down trees, and he like ends up like pulling a sled with Polly riding it, and he was just like jogging through heavy snow, and yeah, he was like chopping down trees, and yeah, it also showed with Drago how like with his sparring partners, like he was just like totally knocking out all of his sparring partners. Yeah, and then yeah, then at one point it then like showed them Adrian then ended up arriving there. There just showed how she was at the cabin, and Rocky saw her there. Her and yeah, she just said how she would always be there for him. And then yeah, they embrace each other, and then there was more training with Rocky and Drago with the Hearts on Fire song playing, which was a great song too. And there was just more training, and at one point it just like showed how Drago was like continuing to display his punching power, and it just kept going up. It went from like 1850 to 1990 to 2045 to 2150. So yeah, his strength just like continued, his punching power just continued to rise, and then it like then showed how Drago being injected with steroids at one point. Yeah, and then yeah, and then it ended with like a Rocky like just a running up a huge mountain, and the chaperones couldn't even keep up with Rocky. And then yeah, Rocky then reached the top and then just screamed, "Drago!" And then we arrived on the fight night. Right, like in the locker rooms, like a Rocky, Duke, Paulie, and Adrian could like hear the Drago chants echoing through the arena. And yeah, it just showed like in the crowd there was like a bunch of like Russian army in the crowd, and it also showed how Drago's manager was like sitting high above the ring with like the Soviet General Secretary and the Politburo. You know, yeah. And of course, sorry. And yeah, of course, like when Rocky and Drago came out, of course, like the crowd was pretty hostile to Rocky, and they were like cheering Drago, of course, since Drago was their home guy. And had the performance of the Soviet national anthem, and yeah, it, like showed how like Drago's picture was on the Soviet flag, and at one point during the performance of the anthem, Drago just like turned around and looked at Rocky, which was like a pretty epic part of this film also. And then yeah, eventually once the fight then began, like Drago was just like beating the hell out of Rocky in the first round, and then yeah, well, and, like he just ended up like knocking Rocky like totally across the ring at one point. Yeah, and so yeah, Drago was just like beating the total hell out of Rocky in the first round, and it continued in the second round. Hound, and he was just continuing to punish Rocky, but then now Rocky then started to battle back, and yeah, eventually then at the like towards the end of the second round, then Rocky like really battled back. He cut Drago open in his eye, and yeah, was just like beating uh, Drago down. And yeah, it also showed that Rocky's son was at home watching the fight with two of his friends, and then yeah, during the fight, just like kept cutting back to them at various points in the fight. Right, so yeah, right, yeah, and then yeah, even after the bell rang for the second round to end, like Rocky and Drago continued to go at it, and even like Paulie and Duke went at it with Drago's training team. So yeah, and then it just showed like the highlight throughout like most of the rest of the fight with the war theme playing. And yeah, and then yeah, it like showed at various points of the fight how Rocky was actually gaining the upper hand on Drago, and then at one point, like in the eighth round, um, Rocky just delivered a huge punch to Drago. All right, what's up? And then like in the tenth round, at one point, then Drago gave a huge punch to Rocky and stuff. Yeah, and then by the 12th round, that's when like the Russian crowd was then like starting to cheer for Rocky. So yeah, this is where this is where it really starts to not really make a lot of sense. And yeah, and it just then showed like by the last few rounds, Drago and Rocky were then just like beating the hell out of each other. And then yeah, you could just like see it in their faces how bad they were beat up. Of like blood was like just rushing down both of their faces and stuff. And then by the after the 14th round, then like the entire arena, was just like chanting Rocky, Rocky, and then yeah, Drago's trainer then just went down and was just like, uh, it was just a berating Drago's performance and just yelled at him to win, and then Drago just grabbed him by the throat and threw him off the ring, and yeah, what? And then of course, like going into the 15th round, like Duke and Paulie told Rocky that he has to knock Drago out to win because, of course, like Drago had most of the fight won because yeah, throughout the fight it just showed how Drago really was like dominating Rocky for most of the fight. So yeah, Duke and Paulie were just telling Rocky that he have to knock Drago out in the 15th round. So then, yeah, in the 15th round, then, man, it went like back and forth between Rocky and Drago. Yeah, they were just exchanging blows with each other. But then eventually, then, and Rocky was then just continued to beat Drago down, and eventually he was able to knock Drago down, and then, yeah, Drago then got knocked out, and yeah, Rocky was the winner of the fight, and then, yeah, the entire arena, was cheering Rocky for Rocky, and everyone was just like swarming into the ring and cheering and stuff. I mean, so yeah, you really could see how this really did not make a lot of sense. And then yeah, then Rocky then just gave a speech to the Soviet crowd because and he was just like acknowledging how the crowd really had a disdain for him, but it then turned to respect. And yeah, he was just like really comparing it to the true animosity between the U.S. and Soviets. Like, of course, like since this was during the Cold War and stuff. Yeah, and yeah, and he was saying how just two guys fighting him and Drago was better than like the 20 million, like the two like all the members of both armies fighting in the Cold War. And yeah, and then he just ended it by saying, "If I could change, then you can change. Everybody can change." And yeah, everyone then applauded that, including like the secretary and the Politburo. And then yeah, Drago's manager then eventually joined in also. And then it just ended. Rocky ended the speech by just like telling his son Merry Christmas, and yeah, everyone cheering, and then yeah, Rocky, Adrian, Paulie, and Duke embracing each other, and yeah, the Hearts on Fire song then like played, and then it cut to credits, and yeah, the entire Hearts on Fire song then like played through the credits, and yeah, I did actually like how the credits, it, how they did the credits, like as the credits were just rolling, it like just showed like some screenshots throughout the entire movie from the beginning to the end. So yeah, I did like how they did the credits in this movie. So yeah, a pretty good movie overall. Like I said, a pretty forced ending that really doesn't make a lot of sense. But the rest of the film overall, I really do like it. Like I said, it is my favorite Rocky movie ever. So yeah, 3.5 stars out of 4. Like I said, and yeah, I will, and I am like really curious to see like how what Creed 2 will do for the continuity with this film. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see the fight between Adonis and Drago's son and see like what like goes on now between Rocky and Drago. So we'll see what that turns out. Yeah, Creed 2 does come out tomorrow, but yeah, like I said, I'm going planning on going to see it like this weekend sometime. So yeah, we'll just see what Creed 2 will do and and what connection it really will have. So yeah, but anyway, alright, so I guess that's it for my review of Rocky 4. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.